everybody, and welcome to our Wednesday webinar on a Tuesday. So thank you to those guys that are actually watching this on a Tuesday, a little bit earlier than the Wednesday, and for those of you that have turned up on Wednesday the 27th of June, hopefully you're able to watch the recording and get as much out of this recording as it was on the Tuesday. So as we progress through today, you can still ask some live questions if you want to, and if you're watching the recording, please feel free to email us at ANZ events, Smart Tech ANZ events, and we can actually answer your questions via email. And I'll make sure that email is available to you at the end of this session. Now, today's Wednesday webinar is about gamification and game-based learning using the Smart Learning Suite online, and particularly engaging students in that higher level thinking through gamification and game-based learning. So hopefully today's session will actually show you some examples of gamifying your classroom and actually dive into how you create that kind of content in your own classroom. So examples of how real teachers in real classrooms have actually gamified their activities, and then how you go about building those activities using the Smart Learning Suite software. So let's just have a little bit of a reminder about the Smart Learning Suite software before we begin. Most of the gaming activities will be obviously presented within Smart Notebook software, but Smart Lab is the predominant gamification and gamifying activities that we use in the Smart Learning Suite. We also use some Smart Response, some kind of assessment tools as well, and we'll take a deeper dive towards next term into Smart Workspaces. But today's session predominantly features Smart Lab, and Smart Lab is the tool within the Smart Learning Suite software that actually allows us to create engaging game-based activities quickly and easily that really make a difference to the teaching and learning that's taking place in your classroom. Also, the one big thing to know about the Smart Learning Suite is it's now actually available online, and having SLS online means that we can be very versatile in our use of devices in the classroom and at home and in school, and we're able to push games and gamification activities to multiple devices for use in different ways. So the Smart Learning Suite actually allows the teachers to create lessons and content at home on their devices or away from the classroom, and then they're able to actually upload that content to the cloud. And once they've uploaded the content to the cloud, the games and activities can be played on smartboards in the classroom, but equally on mobile devices, on laptops, and any other devices with web-based browsers in the classroom settings. So all of the activities that I'm showing you today really tailor themselves very well to a BYOD environment or a device environment. They not only can be played on the smartboard, but they can actually be pushed to the students' devices, and the students can actually play them independently and create games and activities on their devices too. So bear this in mind as we progress through this session. I'm not going to run this webinar using SLSO, but I could be doing that. I could be running this whole session logged onto my cloud profile and asking everybody to participate and join my entire lesson, and my entire notebook would be visible to everybody to progress with me as I do my lesson. But today I'm going to use traditional notebook, and I'm going to send gaming activities to you on your internet enabled device so that you can have a go and see what it's actually like for students to participate in that game-based activity within a classroom. Okay, so before we even start, what is gamification and what is game-based learning? So gamification, to start with, is turning the entire learning process into a game and using gaming elements. So things like choice and chance are actually used in the classroom. Game-based learning is where we're actually playing a game, and we're using a game to teach a learning outcome or a skill or a concept, and the students are playing a game in order to learn that outcome. But at the end of the day, just as Carl Kapp tells us here about games and gamification, serious games and and gamification are trying to solve a problem. They're trying to motivate and promote learning and game-based thinking techniques. And all of those elements are what students engage really well with. They want to achieve, they want to be given chance and choice, and they want themselves to learn, and bringing those elements of games into lessons really encourages students to learn. So if we overlay a framework over the top of these gamifications and gamifying and game-based learning, one of the standard kind of academic overlays that we would use in a classroom might be Bloom's taxonomy. And we understand that the gamification and game-based learning can actually act as that ladder. We can integrate this into our lessons in our classrooms. So if you want to understand how we're going to do this, I'm going to show you today various elements of Smart Learning Suite online, and I'm going to show you how they relate to Bloom's taxonomy and how they can be used in a classroom. So we're going to start at the very beginning to understand what those elements of gaming are, and I'm going to use an SLS Smart Learning Suite lab activity to actually show you what the elements of gaming are. So when we talk about elements of gaming, we mean giving students choice, giving students chance, maybe having levels in a session, maybe having skill building for students to be able to achieve something or work towards something, and giving students challenges. And all of these elements of gamification you can actually achieve by using the tools that you've got within the Smart Lab icon within Smart Learning Suite, and we're going to dive into those today. So if I click on the Smart Lab icon, I get some game templates, quite a few different game templates that give me quick and easy access to create games. And what we've done in this particular activity here, it wasn't me, it was another lovely person within Smart has created this, is we can actually drop down into those particular sections and find out how the Smart Lab activities can actually build in choice. So if we're using label reveal and flip cards and linking, that builds in choice into lessons. If we're using things like the dice and the spinners and mystery boxes, that's building chance into lessons. If we're using smart response, we're building levels into lessons. If we're using things like match 'em up and super sort and rank order, we're doing skill building in lessons. And if we're using things like label reveal, which this actual activity is, or fill in the blanks, or spinners, we're giving them challenges, or dice, we're giving them challenges. And equally, if we're using all the activities within shout it out and points and leaderboards and tic-tac-toe tables, we're giving them achievements. So how did this get created? How can we build a little game like this to give students all those choices to look at these sorts of things? If I create a new page and I click on my gaming icon, that particular slide was created using label reveal. So I'm going to click on label reveal, and the first thing it asks me is to drag an image or browse for an image. So I'm going to browse for one of the monsters that I know I've got on my desktop here, and I'm going to choose Boxy. And what I can actually do is I can click on Boxy to add the labels that I want to add. So I might say, how is Boxy thinking? I want you to solve a puzzle, and I can add more notes in here. So I might say solve a puzzle, or how is Boxy feeling? So I can move my label. So I want my label to be over here. So I'm going to say, how is Boxy feeling? And maybe I want a drama or a role play activity going on with this piece. And what is Boxy doing? So I can add another label here. So doing, and I want to dive deeper and create something with that. So what I've actually done is I've created a label reveal straight away. So I may have a variety of different activities that I've asked the students. They can choose which one they want to do. Do they want to do a thinking activity? Do they want to do a feeling activity? Or do they want to do a creating activity or a doing activity? And what do I mean on that? I can elaborate a bit more. So giving the students the choice actually also encourages us to be able to differentiate and give different tasks to students and address their learning needs. So they may approach things differently, or they may want more of a problem to solve, or they may want more of an activity to do. So that's an example of one of the elements of gaming being brought into a lesson to give students the choice. Another way would be things like using tic-tac-toe balls. So this is an example of a primary school where there's a tic-tac-toe board being used, so the students can actually choose which problem they're going to solve on the smartboard, and they may come over and pick up a pen and tick off the ones that they have actually decided that they're going to do, and collect points and badges as they go along when they're doing this activity. I've just recently actually done this activity with a very lovely Dr. Bronstucky in a classroom, and she was working in an Australian classroom with a group of students to talk to them about digital citizenship, and she decided to gamify the entire session, the entire lesson, that of the students' understanding about digital citizenship. So they had a task, and the task was that they were going to build a superhero, and to understand how to be a good digital citizen, the students actually had to choose or earn 100 points from this table chart in order to do the activities and become a digital citizen, and then create their own digital citizen superhero. So how this was actually created, I'm just going to go back a step here and show you how to create a table and be able to do that tic-tac-toe kind of board. I'm choosing the table icon at the top, and I'm selecting how big I want my table to be. I can then move my table to be where I want to position it in the page, and if I want to make each section bigger or smaller, I can move the lines according to where I feel the need is. I can drag images from the gallery, if I choose to do so, into my tic-tac-toe table. I can write content, so I might be providing the students in a food technology session options of the different sorts of foods that they might want to cook. I might decide that I'm going to add a text box, and we're going to make pasta in here. And I can drag and drop anything I want into these tables, and then I could decide that perhaps I want to give that element a chance. So I can add a screen shade. So if I right click on the cell and I add a cell shade, I'm actually able to hide all of the things that I've got in my tic-tac-toe table. And so maybe in the food technology session, the students have to come up, touch the board, and they then open up the cell, remove the cell shade to be able to decide what they're going to make in their next session. Okay, so let's go back to this particular gamification lesson that occurred with Dr. Bronstucky. As the students actually chose which activities they were going to do, so they may have chosen safe, not safe, they could find that activity within the Smart Notebook software, click, and it's linked to another page called Safe, Not Safe. And then they can actually play this activity. So I'm going to get you guys to join us today and actually play this activity with us. This particular game was about passwords, being safe passwords. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to join my lesson today to do this. So in order to join the lesson, what I would like you to do if you're online is to go to classlab.com in your web browser. And when you have gone to classlab.com in your web browser, I would like you to put in my teacher code, which is 83081300. So once you have put in my class ID, so mine is different to anybody else's, so this is mine particularly, 83081300. You will then be asked to add your name, and once you have added your name, you are going to appear in my lesson just here. Now, I've started that lesson, so hopefully Abby and Michael, you're playing that game right now, and the game is going to be totally independent to the game that I'm playing in the session. So thank you to Tony, Michael, Abby and Liam. So what you're doing is you're sorting out whether or not these passwords are safe, not safe. So if I was on my smart board, I could actually be ranking these passwords as I do it on my smartboard. You're going to be doing it on your phones or your devices, and you're going to get feedback which is independent to the feedback that I have. So as I try to decide which is the passwords is safe or not safe, I'm able to check my ranking and get feedback on my smartboard, and you're able to independently get feedback on your ranking on your device. So this is obviously an activity that is learning by doing a game rather than elements of a game. And to create a game like this is really simple. So I'm going to show you how to create a game. I'm going to create a new page, and I'm going to click on the Smart Lab gaming icon. And that particular activity was rank order. So once I click rank order, I then am asked what would I like to order. So let's be really simple with this. I'm just going to do some numbers. So I'm going to add just numbers for maybe an early childhood section as an example. And once I've added as many as I want to do, so let's just go for 6, I'm then going to click on next, and I can actually decide what template I want to use. So I could be doing rank order in a basketball court or in a garden, or the monsters we've just seen, or in a pirate scenario or a rock concert. I'm going to choose a basketball court and click finish, and I've created my game. So it's really very simple to use these gaming elements and use the Smart Lab game templates that are provided to be able to send and play that game in the classroom. So every time I'm going to get it right, he's going to shoot a basket, and perhaps if I get it wrong, we're going to miss. Okay, so really fun. Students really enjoy playing these games. Now, in this particular session with Bronze Ducky, where she had created different pages, and each of the pages had different games and activities for the students to do, and they were actually doing this on their devices in the classroom, the smart board actually had a table chart so they could record their scores as they went along. So as the students completed one of the games on their devices, they could come up to the smart board and they could actually say, so Katie here said, I've done one that's worth 60 points, so I've earned 60 points straight away. And she could record, so she could add up as she was going along how many points that they've earned. And when they got to their 100 points, they were able to go and build their avatar, their digital citizen, using the activity that was created within that Smart Notebook page. So the whole lesson from beginning to end had gaming elements in it to teach the students about digital citizenship, right from this is, you can choose what you want to do, so here's your choice. You can progress and keep scores, so you can keep an idea of what you're doing, right to the end thing is you're actually going to build a hero. So you've got a game and you're going to have superheroes, and that person is, as a consequence of that, you're able to complete and be a digital citizen. This can be applied in a high school setting again. So this, in a high school scenario, was again created by one of our teachers over in the States, and the students here were actually learning all about leaf and plant life. So the whole idea was that the students were going to decide which tasks that they were going to participate in and achieve, and as they participated in the challenges, as they complete the challenge, they were going to earn badges. So they may earn a flower or a stem or a leaf or a root badge. So the students had to choose which of the challenges that they were going to participate in. So those directions were, you have to choose a minimum of 3. So the students could actually click on these badges and reveal what the task was underneath. So they may decide, as an example, that the first thing they want to do was perhaps a STEM badge, because that was pretty achievable and they could do that fairly quickly. And once they've earned their STEM badge, they can obviously then bring their STEM into the page, go back to it, and then choose the next thing that they were going to do, or the next challenge that they were going to do. So that again was label reveal, really easy to create the label reveal thing. Another way of bringing gaming into a classroom is something really simple, like perhaps asking, giving the students a range of differentiated tasks. And those differentiated tasks are shown on a flip cards. So this particular scenario, the teacher has said, today you can choose which of these activities you want to do, but you must earn 100 points in the course of the day. So some students might say, okay, I'm going to be cautious and I'm going to choose perhaps 10 points and a 25 pointer, or a 25 pointer and a 50, or I'm going to go for gold. I'm going to do one activity, and that activity is going to earn me the 100 points I need to achieve by the end of this lesson. So this is a really great way of actually including choice and chance and elements of those in that gaming. This is a flip and reveal. So if I add a new page here, and I go to my Smart Lab gaming icon, and I'm going to choose flip out. And when I choose flip out, I can add a text or image on one side, and on the other side I can add text or image as well. So let's just stick with our simple number scenario, and I will show you how quickly and easy it is to create a game like this. So let's stick with 3. When I click next, I then get a range of different ways that I might want to have my game presented to me. So I might decide this time I'm going to have some monsters in the background, and I've created my game. At any point, I can share my game with the students in my classroom. So if I click start right now, and you go back to your web browser, so if you have connected with me before and you now go to your web browser, you should find that the game that you now have in your web browser is automatically updated to this new game that that you've got in front of you, where you can flip and reveal to find the words as well as the actual digits. So it doesn't require the students to, every single time they go to the web browser, have to log on again. They can actually go to their internet enabled device, and they can actually instantly participate in that game without having to put in another teacher code or their name for a second time. It will update automatically. And you probably will notice that your version of cards, if you're playing live, are different to the version of cards I've got running on my smartboard here, because no two people's cards will appear the same. So there will be no elements of copying in this kind of game. You all get a different and randomized version of the activity that's sent to you. So what are we saying in all of this? Well, if we think about that Bloom's taxonomy we talked about at the very beginning, when we're doing activities like fill in the blanks, and I'm going to show you one of those shortly, we can understand that that's reaching the remembering part, or the base level part of that Bloom's taxonomy. And as we progress up with things like label reveal, that we might be reaching the understand elements, or match them up might be applying, all the way through to super sort might be analyzing, and rank order might be evaluating, and shout it out might be creating within that Bloom's taxonomy. So what we're actually giving you within the Smart Lab suite of templates of games are absolutely a range of activities that can build skill building and game-based learning in your classroom easily and quickly. This was another activity that Dr. Bronstucky had for 20 points in that Bloom's taxonomy at that remember level, and this was a simple kind of closed procedure activity. And what you'll notice about this one is there's no distraction, so there's no kind of background or colors or images or pirates or monsters, and sometimes that's quite appropriate for a classroom setting. So creating a simple fill in the blank game like this is really easy. So again, I'm clicking on a new page, I'm choosing the Smart Lab gaming icon, and then I'm choosing fill in the blanks, and I'm typing this is a game-based webinar today. So I can then choose my blanks. So I might decide for game and today. And I can choose if I wanted to any of the templates that are already there, or simple would be no particular theme and just no background, as Bron did in that particular section. So this one is really easy, and again, I can get instant feedback on the board, or if I am at my device, I can get instant feedback on my device on how I've done. Okay. So other teachers in classrooms have been using the games to do things like activate prior knowledge. So maybe this is a whole class activity that is on time, and all of the students are sat together around the smartboard to actually have a conversation about what do we already know, and inviting students to come up and show us whether or not they can spot the difference between an analog clock and a digital clock. If the teacher chose to do so, this game can be pushed to devices again, and the students can do this game independently, but doing it at the board really invites that discussion and that debate, and the whole class to talk together and remember what they'd already learned and activate that prior learning. You may decide that you wanted to have some activities where the students actually do it on their devices. Maybe they're a bit trickier and they need a bit more time and a bit of thought. Both of these activities are called Match Them Up. So we're doing the same kind of activity where the students have to look carefully and they have to find a partner for the numbers that they, for the times that they see on the game. So I can think here that we've got 3:45, and I want to find a 3:45 section to go with this, and I can match them up and they're going to play the guitar and if we wanted to, we've actually got some music that we can play with this should we choose to do so. So both those activities were called Match Them Up. If I create a new page, I go to the gaming icon and I choose Match Them Up, and I think of, let's just go simple again in what we were doing, and let's just quickly show you this, and then once I've done that, sorry, I should have given titles there, but I didn't give titles, but you get the idea of what we've got to do. The next thing is I can choose which Match Them Up I want to do. So they have a very different look and feel. So they could be a rock concert or in a garden. Again, it's very simple to actually create these games and put them into a classroom scenario. Some of the games that we have on offer are really lend themselves to groups working together at the smartboard, or having somebody as the game show host. So this particular one that the students really love, game show, the class may be divided into groups, or you might have a small group that's divided into 2 sections. And the students love coming up to the board and spinning the wheel. And once they spin the wheel, you've got the pink monsters versus the red monsters. The pink monster gets the first tie question. So, you know, my hand is almost at the 7 and my long hand is at the 11. What time is it? So that's a tricky one to go with. You might get it wrong, and if you give it wrong, it goes to the next team. And as you see, the more times they get it wrong, the lower the points go, and when they actually do get it right in the very end, that team get the points. So the red team now have 25 points and the game show goes on. So this one is again really easy to create. If we go into the Smart Lab gaming icon, we can choose game show. And once we choose game show, we're able to choose and edit and create students with either multiple choice or true or false questions and create the game that way. So now, I actually wanted to end our session today on one activity that we've seen that was particularly successful in showing visible learning in the classroom. So this was a teacher who was using Shout It Out on the dice to actually create stimuluses for writing. So using the dice, the teacher has edited the dice so that she has created images or text, random images or random text onto the die. And once she has done that, what she'd asked the students to do was to spin the die to choose two random things. So it could have been a dog and a wood, or it could have been a dog and a boat, or the jungle and a penguin. And what the students were going to do was to take these two stimuluses, these two chance stimuluses by rolling the dice, and actually create a sizzling start to the narratives that they were writing in the classroom. So in this particular scenario, the students who had the dice had been given an elephant and a book, and the blue group had been given a cave and a kangaroo, and green group just got the word flash. And the teacher has asked the students to create a sentence using their randomly generated stimuluses. So the first group writes, there is an elephant that ripped all the pages off the bookshelf. The next one says, island cave, there's a shiny kangaroo. And the teacher says, oh, I'm not quite sure whether this is a sentence here. Let's think about this a bit carefully, because we want to create really awesome sizzling starts. And the next group just have the word flash. And what the teacher says is, well, actually, I think flash is the best start to a sentence here. Instantly, the students are able to see what the other groups are doing and what the other group starts. And so when they're asked to improve on that sentence, the next group take flash and think, oh, well, maybe my elephant says thump, thump, thump. And they start their sentence in a very different way. And they read their sentences carefully to make sure that their sentences make sense. So they're visibly seeing improvements, and as the teacher then goes through these second renditions, she then encourages them to make that truly sizzling sentence and finish that whole sentence off as best that they could with their randomly generated stimuluses. So what the students are actually seeing there is they're moderating each other's learning. They're seeing how the other students are going and where the improvements can be made. And they're instantly improving their work to have that visible learning. And if we compared that to a pen and paper scenario, perhaps when the teacher has randomly generated the stimulus and then gone round to each of the students to individually mark how they improved that sizzling start, that might have taken an entire lesson to be able to do that. Or worse still, after the first rendition, the teacher has taken those paper versions home, marked them, and then returned them to the students the next day when that learning moment has gone. But having access to this kind of gamification, shout it out elements instantly encourages very much the visible feedback and the visible learning and the immediate feedback that the students needed to create their sizzling starts. And creating this is a really easy way to do it. You click on classlab.com, and after the class lab icon, after you've clicked that activity was called Shout It Out. And what the teacher had actually done was categorize those. So she had group 1 or red group, she had group 2 or whatever else it was called, and then she had group 3, so you can have as many categories as you decide you wanted, or have as many groups as you want in the classroom. She's invited the students to send back text rather than images, and then instantly this game is generated, and you can give us instant feedback for this. So what I'd like to do today is we just finished our webinar on gamification today. So I'd like you, if possible, to give us some feedback using your web browser. So you can be either in group 1, group 2, or group 3. You can choose which one you'd like to be in. But I'd like you to give us some feedback on what gaming activity you will use in your classroom, having seen our gamification lesson. So if you can just send me back what gaming activity you think you might use in your classroom, so that you can actually participate in this with your students the next time you go into your classroom. So already we've got somebody who said they're going to use game show. That's good fun. The kids really love that. They make sure that they're playing against their teams. That element of chance and competition is brought into that. So that's really good to hear. Any others out there that anybody thinks that they would be using in their classroom? So Abby's there telling us that she would use shout it out. I think that's definitely, those sizzling starts showing that visible learning is a really great way of demonstrating learning in the classroom. And again, Liam's put in shout it out too. Awesome, and so great to get instant and live feedback from you all. Well, I hope you all enjoyed today's webinar on gamification and gamifying your lesson. Please feel free to contact us if you'd like any more information. Thanks for your time today, and look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great, relaxing winter's break. Thank you. Bye.